Good afternoon, everyone. Let's try that again. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, perfect. We are here to talk about developers. And being a developer, I feel very privileged that I do for a living what I would happily do for free. As architects and engineers have built the physical world in which we live in, as developers, we are building the digital world that is taking over every aspect of our lives. It controls the devices that we hold in our hands to the vehicles that transport us. Software has changed the way that we educate ourselves, how we entertain ourselves, and even how we fall in love. Not only has software impacted our personal lives, it has also impacted the business world. Embarking on a digital transformation is not an option. It is fundamentally mandatory for you to thrive and survive this new digital world that we're building. And it's the developers at the center of all of that. It doesn't matter what aspect of your life you look at. It doesn't matter if you're building the ultimate driving machine or building or serving me my next, a pumpkin spice latte. It really doesn't matter. It's all about using software to do it more efficiently and faster than you've ever done before. And we're able to monitor the data that we collect so that you know that you're actually delivering value to your end users. From BMW to Kroger's, I use a lot of this stuff, and a lot of this is global. Maersk ships most of the cargo that we ever see, and they also rely on software. What we want to do is I want to talk to you about other developers who've had the same experience. I remember the first time I actually saw someone using software that I wrote. It's a very unique experience. It's almost if you're standing there like a proud parent as you watch your software work. And if they turn around smiling and thanking you for what you've written, that is a very, very special moment. And it just drives you to go off and innovate further. And I've noticed now that I work at Microsoft and I've been using Azure, getting to those moments in my career are easier and easier. And what I'd like to do right now is share a video with you of other engineers sharing that exact same experience.
Developers, probably as children, pulled their toys apart to see how they worked.
Pandas is something I work on just because I want to work on it.
One of the things that had always driven me is this dream of I can build something myself.
Knowing that my project is out there and it's being used by people day to day, honestly, it's the best feeling in the world.
Being a developer is a really neat superpower.
It's just never been this easy and this quick to create applications.
Azure is a super useful platform. Being able to build the code, have it deployed within about 15 to 20 minutes has been an absolutely indispensable capability.
For virtually everything that an open source project needs, it is already free. It is very important that the CI also be free, and Azure Pipelines provides a number of free builds.
My Aunt Jill, she was diagnosed with motor neuron disease, and that's really what motivated me in the beginning. OptiKey allows people to fully control their computer using eye movement. The first time I got a sentence out, "Hello, my name is Julius," it was incredible.
私も最初はですね、大企業の方々が使うものだというイメージは持っていたんですけども、AI の力を使ってお店に来る方々が最も求めている商品を。
In 2010, we started Girl Develop It. It's really neat to have women reaching out to me and tell me that they are now full-time coders.
And as developers, I'm sure a lot of you can share in that type of experience, that feeling of pride that you get when you write it. And what we want to do at Microsoft is increase that velocity of every developer by providing them the tools that they're going to need to be productive, the environments that they're going to need to collaborate, and the scale to be able to take your ideas and give them the masses, all the people who are going to want to be able to utilize it. The first thing I want to focus on is productivity. How are we going to increase that productivity of each one of your developers? And we do that by giving you world-class tools. I remember when I drove to Egghead Software back in the 90s and I bought my first compiler. I went home so excited to install it, which took hours and hours of popping in floppy disk to try to figure out how to start changing the world. And now that compiler has grown up into Visual Studio, the most popular development environment in the world. And it gives every developer the same sets of tools because no matter if you're on a Mac, if you're on Windows, or if you're on Linux, there is a Visual Studio product out there that can help you do more. We want to help every developer, no matter what language they program in or what platform they target. And some of the innovations that are inside of Visual Studio, I never dreamed would be there. I was excited when they had syntax highlighting, where the words would be different colors depending on their meaning. And now we have things like AI-assisted development, where we can watch you do your development and anticipate what you're going to do next and just have the compiler and have the IDE do it for you. We also have GitHub now and the ability to collaborate with all of your new teammates, because that's essentially what I look at that community. It's just this amazing relationships of communities and teammates that I have. And the other thing that we want to talk about is the fact that when I want to work on one of these projects in GitHub, I potentially need an environment that I don't have access to. How am I then supposed to go ahead and collaborate with that as well? And Visual Studio has lots of great capabilities that enable that. So what I'd like to do now is invite Kendra on stage so that she can show off some of these new innovations that we have in Visual Studio. Here's Kendra.
Thanks, Donovan. Hi, so let me introduce you to the Tailwind Traders App. This is a fictitious home improvement retail store. It runs in Azure, it's built with the best-in-class tools, and it has some machine learning and AI to make it a bit smarter. So we have an AKS backend and a website that uses React, but today I'm going to be working in the WPF desktop app. Now, I know there's a problem with the coupon service, but I didn't get a stack trace or anything, so I'm going to go ahead and look that up with Find in Files. So we completely rewrote the Find in Files menu to be way, way faster. So if I go ahead and type in coupon service, and we added these things to exclude files and directories. So all of that is going to really speed up your search. So I'll go ahead and do a find all. So this will return all of the reg expressions, the substrings, anywhere this string exists in your code. But what if I wanted to do a smarter search? What if I wanted to do a semantic search, because I know coupon service is a type in C#? I can now press Control-Q and search for my coupon service, and it will actually return code results. So Control-Q was the main Visual Studio search for all menu commands and like things buried in tools options, those kind of settings. Now you can also get to code. So we're creating one unified search. So Control-Q is the keyboard shortcut to remember. So I'll go ahead and open that class, and okay. Here I'm getting recent valid history. I'm going to go ahead and insert a debug statement so I can see what's going on in this file. And notice, as soon as I start typing, this is something new. I'm getting IntelliSense completion for a type that's in system.diagnostics, but I don't have a using statement for system.diagnostics at the top of my file. That's completion for unimported types. So as soon as I hit enter and add this, it adds the using statement that I needed. So any type that I have in dependencies on my project, I can now see in my IntelliSense list, even if I didn't have it imported yet. Pretty cool. So as soon as I hit dot, I'm getting IntelliSense completion, but I'm also getting the starred results. And those starred results are IntelliCode. So IntelliCode is our machine learning model that we've trained over thousands of open source repositories to give you the right suggestions in your developer context. So here I'm getting overload completion as well, and we just added argument completion. So it's also able to scan over variables in my local scope, figure out which ones I want to use as arguments and insert them, or at least put them at the top of your IntelliSense list. Pretty cool. And the more I look at this file, actually, I could run the debugger, but I'm seeing datetime.utc now, but here I'm using datetime.now, and here's UTC again. I think this inconsistency is what's been causing my problem. I'm also not a fan of how this is formatted. Here I have days and then I've add minutes and then add days, and here I have add days and then add minutes. So I want to refactor this code a little bit and add this fix to clean it up. Now I could do this all manually. Maybe I could do some sort of regex insertion, but it won't work for the ones with all these different parameters, and it'll take me a long time to write. So I don't want to do all of that, so gosh, just got to go through this. But now I'm getting a new suggestion. It's IntelliCode again. This is the IntelliCode suggested edit. So IntelliCode just figured out what user edits I was doing to my code, found the next place they could be applied, generated the code fix that I needed with the parameters in that scenario. So I'll go ahead and apply these to the rest of my document. IntelliCode suggested edits is currently a preview feature, so you gotta go check it out. Another preview feature I'm really excited to talk about is, and I'll bring up this pane, you do have to enable it. It's vertical document layout. This was the #1 Visual Studio Developer Community item, and we got it in. Okay, I'll hit OK. Boom. So as developers, our screens are getting wider and wider, and we have plenty of horizontal space, so a lot of people wanted back that little line of vertical space where we keep all of our tabs. So we still have all of the document management. I can right-click and manage as document groups. I can set the tab layout to the left or the right, anything I want, whatever I want to do that makes me most comfortable using my IDE. So we get that space back. So this morning, I've been using Visual Studio productivity tips and saved actually a lot of time. What I'm going to do is spend a little bit of time working in my favorite open source C++ project. That project is MySQL. But MySQL is a massive solution. So it's over 38,000 files. I don't have any of the setup or dependencies or anything that I need to work on it on this machine. So what I'm going to do is connect to a Visual Studio Online environment. I'm sure you guys have heard the buzz throughout the conference. So this is the first time it's connecting to Visual Studio. So I'm going to hit that. So it's loading 38,000 files, right? Huge projects, 3 gigs when I clone the repo. And my instance of Visual Studio is just going to be a front end. So I have all of my configured user preferences and stuff that I love, but all of the debugging, the compiling, and even the source code is up in an Azure environment on the cloud. So it already loaded. That was actually really fast. It's a huge solution. And just to give you an idea of that this instance of Visual Studio is connected to an online environment, I'm going to go ahead and print out the number of processors I have. I do not have 16 processors on my local machine. Actually, I'll go ahead and launch Windows Terminal. Just run the same command so you guys get an idea. So I only have 8 on my local machine, so I'm able to use that cloud horsepower. So let's see what coding looks like in here. Let's go ahead and open up a C++ file that I was working in. So I got search, I've got all of the navigation that I like. I can jump to a certain line, it's Control-G. And when I'm typing, notice there's absolutely no latency. So I'm getting IntelliCode completion and IntelliSense, even though all of this source code is not local on my machine. It is up in the cloud. So I'll go ahead, so I'll go ahead and finish that line. And I want to go ahead and kick off a build. So normally, when I'm trying to build this project, and I'll open up the output window so we can see it's actually building, printing out all that stuff, it would max out my CPU for 30 minutes. My computer would be unusable. I would have to really stop. I couldn't do anything. But now, if I launch my CPU, or launch my task manager, my local resources on my machine aren't being used. Azure is doing that work for me. So I can easily switch context, keep working on something else, because all of this is in an online environment. So I was able to switch context really easily, no setup. All of my dependencies were already connected to this online environment. I got all of the productivity tools I know and love, IntelliSense. I can debug all of the navigation and code search I got. And it doesn't use the local resources on my machine, so I can stay productive in that time I use. So I'm going to keep working on the C++ project. Donovan,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kendra. So she's showing you a lot of awesome stuff, and a couple of you wanted to clap, but you didn't. It's safe to clap. As a matter of fact, if you do not clap for the next cool thing you see, I'm going to cut that feature from the product, right? So I suggest you go ahead and loosen up, and let's go have some fun today. All right, so let's talk about collaborating globally and, most importantly, securely. Globally is the easy part because we just bought GitHub. We now have the largest community in the world. And now, in my opinion, I have 40 million new teammates. Just imagine the cool stuff that you can get done. Before we bought GitHub, I had no idea what open source was, never had an open source project. We bought it, thought I should get involved. I created something called VS Team. Now I have a lot of contributors, and it's the oddest experience when someone says, hey, Donovan, this is broken, and before I can read the issue, someone has a pull request fixing a problem in my product, right? It's an amazing way to work, and all I have to do is stay on top of the pull request and keep on adding value. And that's what we're empowering for every developer. GitHub will stay open, it will stay GitHub, but we're gonna start integrating as much of the Microsoft power and Azure power into it we possibly can. Some examples of the way that we've collaborated and joined these two is by making sure that you're staying compliant. Using open source is exciting, but sometimes it can also be risky. If you add a dependency to the wrong project, you could bring something down. And what we want to be able to do is scan your dependencies for you, give you a heads up, and let you know you probably need to go and upgrade that one or replace that one. And as a package producer, I also get notifications for any dependencies that I have on my packages that others might be using that I need to make sure that I'm on top of, which is really important. So making sure those security vulnerabilities are taken care of is paramount and in the forefront of what we're doing with GitHub to make sure that everything that we develop is more secure than it was before. The other thing is automation. You all remember me, I'm a big DevOps guy. I've done a lot of stuff with DevOps. And I'm all about making sure that we automate as much as we possibly can. And GitHub is doing that with something called Github Actions. It's allowing you to take actions and automate a lot of the things that happen inside of your GitHub repository, including CI and CD. And what I want to do right now is invite Abel Wang on stage so he can show you some of the great things that we're doing with GitHub and GitHub Actions. Thank you. Here's Abel.
Good afternoon, everybody. That is awesome. Today, I'm here to talk about GitHub Actions. Now, for those that don't know, GitHub has created a workflow engine that's built directly into their platform. And it's called Actions V2. And using Actions, man, you can create all kinds of automated workflows. But I am a DevOps guy. So I wanted to see how can I use Actions for my CI/CD pipelines. Let me show you what I've done. So on the big screen, what you see right there is the Tailwind Traders website, and it's running locally on my machine. So what I'm going to do is show off some stuff, right? One of the things is there's a bug here. If I try to shop by uploading a picture, it doesn't work. Let me show you what happens. I upload a picture, and that's what I get back, which is not what I want to see. We were expecting some results back, right? But wait, there's more. When I started investigating, things just got worse. When I went to the production website, yeah, that's what I saw. That's not good. Now, this site is hosted in Azure. So jumping into the Azure portal, doesn't that look a little weird? Like, where are my resources, right? Somebody has come in here and deleted absolutely everything. However, I should be okay, because when I built my CI/CD pipelines, I used DevOps best practices, including infrastructure as code. So in theory, I should be able to fix my bug locally, check it into GitHub, which will then kick off my CI/CD workflow, which then will build my application, and then provision and configure the infrastructure that I need up in Azure, and then it will take the bits that I just built and then deploy that into the infrastructure that I just provisioned. Pretty cool, right? All right, let's make this happen. So the first thing we need to do is we need to fix this bug. And here's my code, and this is the problem. The path name is incorrect. It shouldn't be a new products list. It really should be suggested products list. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now let's push these changes back into GitHub. Now I need to type in my username. Oh, that's the wrong button. Let's go ahead and type in the username. And also my password. Let's see if I can remember what it is. And hooray for that. We're going to check our code in. And as soon as code hits GitHub, it should kick off my CI/CD workflow. Let's go see if it really did that. So here is my GitHub account. I'll click on the Actions tab, and bam, there's my workflow chugging away. And if I click on it, we can see in real time what it's doing, which is it's building my app, it's provisioning and configuring whatever I need in Azure, and then it's going to go and deploy my application. So while this is running, let me show you how you can set up one of these workflows. What you need to do is in the root of your repository, you need to have a .github/workflows directory. And underneath this directory, this is where we store our workflow definition files as YAML. And here's mine, build and deploy.yaml. Now, as you can see, there are 3 jobs, right? There's a build, a provision and configure, and also a deploy job. Now, in my build job, I use a Windows virtual machine, and yes, GitHub gives us VMs in all 3 OS flavors, Windows, Mac, and also Linux. In this case, I'm just using a Windows VM. Next comes the steps, which is just one action, followed by another, followed by another, followed by another. All right, So those are the actions that I did to build my application. Next comes my provision and configure job. This one runs in parallel to my build job. And what this does is it provisions and configures the infrastructure that I need by calling from the command line a PowerShell script. And this PowerShell script is my infrastructure as code file. And in this PowerShell script, I use the Azure CLI to provision and configure everything that I need up in Azure, including stuff like configuring DNS settings and even configuring HTTPS, right? So it sets my certs and does all of that good stuff. Now, I have one last job, which is my deploy job. This one waits for the build and the provision and configure to finish. And when both jobs are finished, then it kicks off. And what this does is it deploys my application into Azure App Service by using an action that was created by Microsoft. Now, I love having YAML as my workflows. And the reason why is because now I can save these YAML files into source control. So now it sits there with my source code. It sits there with my infrastructure as code. It can even sit there with my database schemas, right? And now everything gets versioned together. So check this out, right? Somebody can now fork my repository, and when they fork my repo, they get everything. They get the source, they get the infrastructure, they get my database schema, and now they get my CI/CD pipelines as well. Really, really good stuff. But, and there's always a but, right? But I'll be the first to admit, authoring workflows in YAML can be challenging at times, right? But GitHub has made this better, and let me show you how. When you go create a new workflow, we'll go ahead and click on the New Workflow button, and now we can see you can pick the language that this is for. And there are all kinds of languages that you can pick. I'm going to go ahead and pick, well, how about Go? And once I select the language, GitHub will then create for us a starter workflow that is now ready for us to just jump in and start customizing. If we need to search for the actions that we want, here's a great handy search feature that searches the marketplace for actions. So of course, I want to do something Azure. So let me type in Azure, and now you can see all the Azure-related actions that are in the marketplace, with more coming every single day. Now, I can see and hear some of you thinking right now, this is great, but what if I want to do something in my workflow that doesn't exist in the marketplace? Not a big deal, because you can write your own custom action. Custom actions, that's just JavaScript. So anything you can do in code, you can get your action to do as well. Or said another way, anything that you want, yeah, that's what you can get your action to do. Now, authoring actions, it's pretty simple too, because check this out. GitHub has given us templates that we can just start using. This makes things so much easier. And part of the template also includes a README file, which is a walkthrough that walks us through, step by step, exactly how to create our own custom actions. Again, very, very good stuff. All right, let's go jump back to our CI/CD workflow, and we'll go ahead and see what's going on. And it looks like, check that out, that's awesome. Our CI/CD workflow is done. We've built, provisioned, and deployed. So now, jumping into the resource group, if I refresh this, we should see the infrastructure that we configured. So here's a new resource group. I can drill into it, and now here are all the resources that we provisioned from my pipeline. And now going to the web app, let's refresh this, and bam, there's my app. But did I fix my bug? Let's find out. We'll upload a picture. And let's choose the multi-tool. And hooray for that. Guess what? We fixed the bug. There's one last thing I wanted you all to see. Check this out. Let me zoom into this URL so you can get a really good look. That URL is not an Azure URL. It uses my domain name. Why? Because my pipeline set my DNS for me. And then check out this lock, too. It's in the locked configuration because, again, I set up my certs for HTTPS in my pipelines. This was a real CI/CD pipeline that used infrastructure as code. I freaking love all of this stuff, man. I really, really do. All right. Thank you. All right, we all know, right? GitHub is the premier service for social coding and open source projects. And now with Actions v2, CI/CD is built right into the platform. And what can you do with Actions? Like my demo just showed you, you can do pretty much whatever you want. So all you devs out there, go grab your GitHub accounts and let's start building CI/CD pipelines using Actions. Thank you.
Thanks, Abel. It's interesting seeing Abel do a DevOps demo, and that's normally what I would be doing, but I clearly have passed the torch to a very capable person. You just saw something that would normally be a nightmare. Can you imagine going to your Azure subscription and realizing someone deleted everything? I would just quit my job, right? It's time to go work somewhere else because there's no way I'm getting this back up on my own. But he showed you just push a button and your entire infrastructure, your DNS records, your SSL certs, everything is put right back where it was before by the click of a button. That's what we're talking about. Now that we have solutions like the one Abel just showed you, what we want to do now is be able to scale that because people are going to start coming. Think about Black Friday, Cyber Monday. The people are coming, and you have to make sure that you can scale your innovation. And what you need to do that is a supercomputer. And that's essentially what Azure is. It is the world's largest supercomputer. More regions than anyone else combined. And people are like, well, we can't run our stuff up there because we have XYZ cert or WYZ cert. Yeah, chances are we already have it. We have certs I've never heard of before on Azure to make sure that you can run your workloads safely and securely in the cloud. Before you say we don't have it, go check if it's one of the 90 that we already have, okay? We're compliant and we're huge, which is awesome. What do we provide for you? Hundreds of services, starting at the lowest level infrastructure. One of my people, Anthony, always says, ops is in everything, and he's absolutely right. Don't kid yourself. Even serverless has servers back there somewhere, and someone's going to need to be able to manage that stuff and control it for you. If you want the bare metal VM, we'll give you that as well with our infrastructure. Above that, we have serverless. That's where I like to live. To me, that's the sweet spot. I don't want to know that there's a server back there. I never want to reboot it when it's time for an update. I just want to focus on solving the problem and let Azure take care of the rest. And then above that, we have the edge, because solutions don't just sit in the cloud. Some are on the edge, some are on-prem, and what we're going to be able to do is give you one holistic solution. No matter where you're deploying, we're going to be able to help you there. On the right, we're showing you a list of tools, and those tools all integrate very easily into Azure. No matter what tools you want to use, we're going to make sure you can use them effectively when you're deploying into Azure. Let's focus a little bit on serverless. I'm a huge app service fan. I've been a user of it for quite some time on some apps that I use. I love functions now. It's just making that really lightweight functionality. And then we have Kubernetes. If you're ready for Kubernetes, we're ready to help you there as well. But you have lots of different options. You don't have to containerize your app to stop worrying about the server. There's tons of different things on that gradient that you can start to utilize and ease your way into whatever serverless technology that you actually need. Now, we have some great announcements when it comes to serverless. We now have a new Functions Premium plan. That means there's no more jitting. There's no more cold start. What we normally do is if it hasn't been used for a while, we're going to go ahead and decommission that, and the next time you use it, we'll spin it back up, but that takes time. What you can do is say, I don't ever want there to be a lag, no matter how long it's been since someone's actually hit my function. We'll keep it warm for you no matter what, and you're going to have that speedy response time. I'm a big fan of PowerShell. Even before I met Jeffrey Snover, but even more so after I met Jeffrey Snover, PowerShell is freaking awesome. And a lot of IT pros out there have an army of PowerShell scripts that they'd love to be able to run, and now you can actually just run those inside of functions, using the triggering mechanisms of functions to now automate your infrastructure using PowerShell. You noticed inside of the demo that Abel just did, that was an SSL, right, cert actually on that HTTPS. They're able to manage those now inside of App Service for you, making that much easier than having to go off and manually do that. Remember to update them. They're going to expire at some point, and then you're going to have to go through this whole rigmarole again. We'll manage all of that for you. And I'm a big fan of DevOps, as you know, and to do DevOps correctly, you're supposed to be delivering value to your end users. The only way that you know you're delivering value is to make sure that you're monitoring your application while it's running in production. That is producing a lot of telemetry. And what you want to be able to do is comb through that telemetry. And with our log analytics, we're allowing you to do that. A lot of the features that we have out here are features that we had to use internally that we've now productized for you as well. I love using Azure DevOps as an example. They collect 7 terabytes of telemetry a day. And we had to have technology like log analytics to comb through that and make sense of it to make sure that we're actually delivering value. Another thing that I'd like to talk to you about is artificial intelligence. When I was at university, does anyone remember the language Lisp? The only reason you took Lisp is because you were going to go into the artificial intelligence class. And a lot of times that stopped us from going into that class because we had to learn yet another language that was really scary. But now with Azure, adding artificial intelligence is 2 lines of code in whatever code you happen to be writing in right now. And we're going to take these things off the shelf and allow you to add these different items of search, of learn, of reason, of decisions, and language all right inside your application with minimal changes. So you saw the cool AI stuff we did with Visual Studio. You can now start doing a lot of that cool stuff in your own app with 2 lines of code thanks to the services that we provide inside of here. Now, another thing that we want to talk about is that we're developers, many of us are, but we want to empower everyone in your organization. It is becoming harder and harder to employ people who are hardcore devs. But there's lots of people in your organization who see ways that they could add value if they just didn't have to write the code. We want to be able to have a low-code or no-code option for them to empower your organizations. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to democratize development. Development can't just be something that you're doing geeky at the command line with some crazy fonts on your screen. It has to be something that is enabled by everybody. And Power Apps and the Power Platform that we have is enabling that for everyone, from the hardcore developer to what we call the citizen developer, the individuals in your organization who know that they can add value but just need a little bit of help in a platform to do it. When you combine Azure and Power Apps, that's exactly what we're doing for our customers. We're allowing everyone in your organization to harness the power of Azure and start to deliver value to their end users. So what I'd like to do right now is actually invite Jeff Hollan on stage to show you how you can combine Azure and Power Apps and do a lot of amazing stuff with almost 0 code. Here's Jeff.
What is up, everyone? I am so excited to be here and talk to you about something that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is serverless. So I want to show you some ways that you can use serverless technology to really increase your productivity, enable you to build and ship applications faster, but also how you can combine serverless technology with things like Power Apps, cognitive services, logic apps, which is serverless, to get a bunch of awesome stuff. So to do that, we're going to talk again about Tailwind Traders. Now, Tailwind Traders has regional distribution centers. You can imagine they're getting shipments constantly from these different suppliers. And at the warehouse, at these regional centers, like many manufacturing and retail locations, they've got to get these forms. And they need to look at these forms and make sure, okay, this is the shipment, it's to the right place, this is the right inventory. And I also need to make sure that all of our business systems are up to date with all of this information as well. So in order to modernize this process, Tailwind Traders has built a few things all on top of serverless tech and Power Apps. So to start with, I want to show you this mobile application. Now, this mobile app, it doesn't look really different from any other mobile app. In fact, the app itself is not very special, but what makes this app special is how it was able to be built. And more importantly, who was able to build it. Because this application used by employees at Tailwind Traders was built using Power Apps, which means that you can use an intuitive visual designer to drag and drop elements onto this app to add the functionality that you need without having to write code. This brings app development to an entire new class of developers. We often call them citizen developers who can start to build these capabilities. But even myself, who I love using things like Xamarin, sometimes I might just pop in a quick Power App because I just want to put some UI over data, and Power Apps lets me do that extremely quickly. So here with the Tailwind Traders app, I can manage things like my shipments. You can see we've received a few shipments already today. But what's awesome is I want to be able to just scan in one of those forms, letting me know what has been shipped. So I could use the camera, but for now, I'm just going to go ahead and select a picture. This is a form that might show up at one of our warehouses. And I want to go ahead and process this form. And I've heard a lot about machine learning and artificial intelligence, and I'm like, you know what? I'll bet you machine learning could do this. And it absolutely can, in that when I click this process button, Power Apps right now is sending this data up into the cloud. It's being processed, and what's returned back to me are all of the details about that form. It's been parsed automatically for me. I can see, yep, I have some screwdrivers. I can validate that the inventory is all correct and the product SKU is all correct. What's nice here is, as part of the back-end logic of this app, you'll see I even have a warning. It's saying, hey, the shipment says that it was destined for Redmond, Washington, but it looks like right now you're in Orlando, Florida. Do you want to replace it? Like, is this accurate or not? So I can even catch issues right away. So this functionality seems extremely useful, but I want to show you now how they were able to use serverless technology to build it. Now, we talked some about that artificial intelligence and machine learning to parse things like forms. But I didn't have to worry about data scientists or models and training to do any of that, because I was able to use Azure Cognitive Services. So here I could use the new Form Recognizer service. This service is incredible. I just give it a few sample images of forms that I have, and the service can learn and adapt, and it actually returns back to me the details of that form. So me using the service was all I needed to do to inject my application with that intelligent capability. And there's many other cognitive services that can be used from every single type of application. Now, wrapping the cognitive service was a little bit of code. I have here a simple Azure function, right now written in C#, but as mentioned, you can now write these in PowerShell, Python, JavaScript, Java. Here I have a simple event. A form has been scanned. And now I can just write only the code that I care about for that form scanning process and say, hey, take that image, run it through the Form Recognizer service, connect with my systems, validate the inventory, validate the location. All of that logic is described here in code of my function. And as soon as I'm ready to go, I could then run it and debug it all locally, either in Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio. And then I can then deploy it to run in Azure. So if I get 1 million forms that are getting processed, my app just scales. Now, many of you might have heard of serverless before, and you might be thinking, hey, serverless sounds great, but I know it has some gotchas, things like cold start. I don't want to worry about my app being slow at the start of the work week after a weekend of no shipments. And so we are excited to announce the brand new premium plan that enables the same productive development experience. It's the same app, but now, as the name would suggest, you get some extra premium features. So I want to show you a few now. One of them is that I now get more control over how and when my application scales. So in this case, I've actually chosen for this app, powering my mobile experience, I've decided to provide some pre-warmed instances as part of the premium plan. This means that no matter if my traffic drops to 0, Azure is going to keep this function warm, so no matter what, as soon as I call this app, it responds right away. This type of control makes things like cold start an engineering trade-off that you can now get rid of by using things like this pre-warmed instance control. I also have other controls here. I can manage things like the networking of this application. I can connect this function securely into a virtual private network running in Azure, or maybe I need my function to communicate with systems that are on premises that can all be easily clicked and configured here. And finally, SSL. Donovan announced the Managed Certificates feature. Now all functions and all app service sites can get free SSL certificates for custom domains. This is a huge feature that brings security much, much more easy to every single application. So I can now make this function have certs for even custom domains. So that's great. My function can do the processing. I'm now at this stage in my Power App where I want to submit that, yes, this form is accurate. And for Tailwind traders, like every company, it's not just greenfield functions and Power Apps and all of these new serverless tech. Tailwind also has brownfield applications, grayfield applications, that field of application where someone wrote it 10 years ago, but they left the company and nobody wants to touch that thing with a 10-foot pole. They have all those types of applications. And it's important that their systems are still able to talk to their apps, legacy or new. So what I really need to have happen when I click this submit button is I want to go and integrate with many different systems. And that's where services like Logic Apps are a massive help. These are serverless workflows. So you may have Logic Apps before, but you've probably never seen them edited and built this way. Using the Visual Studio Code extension, coming soon, we will actually let you develop, design, and edit your Logic App workflows in the Visual Designer right here within Visual Studio Code. So here I can describe the workflow. Hey, when someone submits the form, I want to send a confirmation email to the supplier. I'm going to create a record inside of Dynamics where I'm storing our inventory in our systems. Create a record inside of Cosmos DB that's going to power things like the web application that Abel was showing you earlier. What I love about Logic Apps is every single one of these connectors is code that I don't have to write and manage. There's over 200 connectors here, everything from SQL to SAP to Oracle, Salesforce, you name it. This is all code that I don't have to write, that I can easily drop into this workflow. And if I need some more flexibility, I can start to call other Azure functions right here in my workflow. What's nice too about this extension is that once it's ready to go, I can add this to my project and it will export out a template that I could check into source control and then deploy to any subscription in the world. So now that I have that workflow running, I could go ahead now, submit my form. It's going to kick off that workflow, integrate with those downstream systems. So with these new serverless tech, I've been able to inject in some intelligence, some automation, some integration into this application. But as a developer, I haven't had to worry about managing those servers, managing those updates. It's all been taken care of for me. I'm so excited about all these developments for serverless tech. I'm hoping you all give it a shot. Thank you so much. It's been great talking with you today.
Thanks, Jeff. One other thing I'd like to announce before we go is API management. It's been a service that we've had for quite some time, and it allows you to sit a service in front of your APIs that will help people log on, help you control access, even generate documentation for you. People have liked it a great deal, but they said, Donovan, just as Jeff told you, not everything that we do runs in the cloud. We need a way to manage our APIs that run on-prem. So how are you going to help us do that as well? Give us API management on-prem, and we've done that. You can actually take our offering anywhere you can run a container and actually put our workload right in front of your APIs and manage them if they're on-prem or in the cloud. Doesn't matter. Another thing that's really nice is that we've taken the default portal that we create and we allow you to theme it now so that it fits right inside of your application and feels natural and generates even better documentation than it did before. So we want you to give you that controllability and that customization. You can even fork the repo and actually customize it even further if you need to, because we developed a lot of this in the open source as well. So what we talked about today is making sure that we help you with your developer velocity. First thing we want to do is give you the world-class tools in Visual Studio and access to those tools no matter what platform you develop on. We wanted to introduce you to your new 40 million teammates that you can now use to help you innovate and outperform your competition with the introduction of GitHub as part of our family. We want to make sure that you have the supercomputer that you can use to run all of your workloads, which is Azure. We make sure that you have data sovereignty because we have so many regions, we're highly secure, and you can trust us with every workload that you need in the cloud. And we also want to empower every developer, even those that are new citizen developers, people who don't sling code every single day, to be able to add value to your companies, and we're doing that with Power Apps as well. There's a lot that you can actually see here. This is just a slide of some of the places you can go and learn more about DevOps, developer tools, and Azure and Power Platform. I would like to personally thank you because I know how privileged I am to be able to do a job where I get to come and talk to you, and the fact that you took the time out of your schedule to sit here and hang out with us. I hope you enjoyed the demos that we showed you, and you have a unique opportunity here at Ignite. The engineers that actually produce the amazing technology that Kendra, Abel, and Jeff showed you are actually in some of these buildings, and you can go to the hub and actually meet those engineers and ask them questions. Also, when you're meeting the engineers, don't feel ashamed to say thank you, because they've produced some really amazing things for us here that we can go off and use. If you like the demos that you saw, you can actually go and download that from GitHub, because we're doing a lot more stuff inside of open source. Every demo you saw, the Logic app, the pipelines, everything is in GitHub, and you can go back off and use that. Again, I truly want to thank you for hanging out with us, and enjoy the rest of Ignite. Take care, everyone.